Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Transformation Project. We're so excited to have you here again with us today, and really excited for our guest too. Today, we are speaking to a wonderful mom that I met actually through my daughter's school. When I first met her, I had no idea how freaking awesome she is. We basically just bonded because I happened to be an admin on the page and she was grumpy about a situation in the disability section of the car park. And that's how we met. Had no idea how incredible she is, but we're so excited to chat to her today. Abbi Brass. She's first and foremost a mum to her two children, Sophie and Josh. She is also the founder of Variety Kids Sports Camps. She's a disability advocate, a change maker, and an all-around awesome human being. Abbi, thank you so much for hopping on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
That's really cool to have you here. This is so fun. We don't get to do this most of the time. We're just chatting over Facebook. But
No.
Crazy how we first connected, because you were literally just new to our school. Your son Josh joined in grade 7 and you were having a problem with the car parks.
Understatement. So my son Joshua was born with a disability called sacral agenesis, and that's kind of like spina bifida. So anyone that knows that sort of world knows that they're usually a wheelchair user. So when you go to drop your child off at school, you would like to use the wheelchair car park because you need a little bit of extra room to open doors and to comfortably be able to get your kid in and out of the car. Anyhow, I came across an issue that was ongoing for a term and I was just getting so peeved off. And that's when I took number plate pictures and sent them through to you.
Yes, you did. So this is a public service announcement. Please don't park in the disability parking.
When you've got a child in a wheelchair, they will scratch your car.
Yes, there's that too. There's that too.
Yeah.
So, Abbi, tell us a little bit about Variety Queensland, the children's charity.
Well, where do I start with them? So we became first involved with Variety through social media. Would you believe it?
Good on social media.
So what happened was when Josh was about 3, we're Kiwis, so I created him some social media page for our friends and family back home to watch. Anyhow, his growth just became larger and larger, and next thing you know, I get a private message from the Variety Queensland CEO, Steve. And Steve reached out to me and he goes, Abbi, we would like you to apply for a Variety Heart Scholarship. And I said, oh, are you sure about that? Like, we're not Aussies. And he goes, I don't care who you are, what you are. Please apply for one because your son is incredible. So anyway, we did, and that was probably back in 2015, I think. And from there, we just became friends with Variety and Steve, and we became family. So Steve was very intrigued with Josh and what he does. Joshua at that time of his life was actually traveling around Australia doing Spartan races. So anyone that knows what a Spartan race is, it's like Tough Mudder. So Josh would get out of his chair, he would hand walk, he would go through all the obstacles, he'd go through the mud, and Steve thought that was absolutely phenomenal. So we started training for a Spartan race, all of us. He thought he had the mindset, if Josh can do it, I can do it. But Steve is in his late 40s, used to be a champion sports person back in 1980. So yeah, we were climbing up the top of Mount Cootha and I had a bit of a brain fart and I said, Steve, I've got an idea. I've been talking to a good friend called Kurt Fernley. So if you know Kurt Fernley, he is one of Australia's top Paralympic wheelchair racers. He has the same disability as Josh. I said, Steve, look, I've been talking to Kurt, and I really want to launch a kids sports camp here in Queensland because there's nothing like it. So anyway, Steve goes, right, put it in a business plan, get it back to me ASAP, and I'll put it to the board. So literally that night, it was sent. It was sent. It was put on his desk, and he just said, do you sleep? And I did. I put it forward to him. The reason why that came to fruition was because we've been traveling all around Australia for these camps. We've been traveling to the States. Like back when Josh was about 4, we were introduced to this organization called the Challenged Athletes Foundation. It's based in America, and they actually provided us with grants to go over there and experience sports camps and other sort of sporting sort of sporting sort of activities, and they would go on for about a week. So we'd be over in the States living it up and experiencing what they experienced, and then we'd come home and we'd be like, oh, where is all this stuff? Like,
we want to do it again.
Yeah, we want to do it, and we want to feel, and we want to share, and we want to learn. And Josh grows when he's surrounded by peers that are doing the same stuff. So I think we went back and forth for about 4 years. And I jumped on Facebook, good old Facebook once again. I Googled Australian Paralympic athletes, and I started sending them all private messages. And one particular Paralympic athlete got back to me. His name's Luke Bailey. He's just represented the country in Tokyo. He got back to me, and he told me about an amazing organisation in Sydney called Wheelchair Sports New South Wales. So I reached out to them, and they said, look, we've got a junior camp. We'd love you to come down. We don't care where you live. Please come. So Josh would have been maybe 6. And we went down, and we've been back and forth ever since. So, what happened? It was probably Christmas 2018, and I'm sitting around the table with Kurt Fernley. Joshua was feeding him up on Bean Boozled jelly beans, the ones that taste like vomit and stuff. And I'm sitting there with Kurt going, dude, why is this not in Queensland? He goes, Abby, it used to be in Queensland. All the other states dropped the ball. New South Wales carried it on. He goes, you just need someone up there to do stuff. And I said, right.
Nothing is passionate and as a mom who's advocating for their child, is there?
Yeah. I said, right, it's on. I've had my daughter. She's old enough now. I'm getting a full night's sleep. I can do this. So yeah, that's how it led to putting it to Stephen, getting it across the line.
How amazing. That's so cool. So what does it all entail?
So it's a 3-day, 2 nights live-in sports camp. I wanted to make sure it was free because we had to wait till Joshua was 10 before we could access NDIS.
Can you explain for our international people what NDIS is?
So NDIS is the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So over in the States, you've got I don't know what they call it, some sort of medical insurance that covers you for all your adaptive equipment. And the same deal, like if you're a citizen or a permanent resident of a country, then you get to access this stuff. If you're not, then you have to pay full price. So for a pair of ankle foot orthotics, they could cost anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 a pair. Could be, you might need to change those like once 6 months, a year. You just don't know whatever your orthopedic surgeon's going to say. So when you have to fund that by yourself, it gets quite expensive. Chairs and wheelchairs cost anywhere from $7,000 to $20,000 each, and children grow fast.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of these because my friend is an occupational therapist, and a lot of these children and adults for that matter don't just have, for example, an occupational therapist. There's like an occupational therapist, and there's a psychologist, and there's a support worker, and like there's literally a team of people around you that if you don't have like a support worker to try and help you with that, you're trying to manage by yourself as a parent, and then pay for that if you didn't have the disability support scheme.
It's hard. So I remember being part of Spina Bifida Queensland, and they would take everybody under their wing that had a child that had something like sacral agenesis or spina bifida or something kind of relatively close to that sort of disability. And they would give you the resources to try and apply for grants and things like that, community sort of hardship sort of stuff. But it's really, really hard unless you are passionate and you have thick skin and work 2 jobs. 9 times out of 10, people move back to New Zealand. We decided to just keep charging because, let's be real, at the end of the day, we would have had to come back for operations and, just opportunities. So 3-day, 2-night camp. Well, where I was going with that was that it's free for a participant and a carer. Throughout the camp, children are exposed to a number of sports. Those sports are all Paralympic sports, plus some, and they're all coached by national sporting bodies. Everybody I've crossed paths with in my life or Joshua's life are there. So, for example, our first camp in 2019, we had Brendan Hall, who's a Paralympic swimmer. We had Louise Savage, who's one of Australia's top Paralympic women wheelchair racers. And these people help guide these children to make sure that they're learning how to do the sports correctly. So this camp not only exposes the children to these sports, but it also gives them time to try the sport, like using the equipment that they might need to use if they were to carry it on. These pieces of equipment can range, as I said, like wheelchairs, $7,000 to $10,000 plus, and that's per sport. So if someone was to try and do wheelchair tennis, it's a different chair to wheelchair basketball or wheelchair rugby league or hand cycling or wheelchair racing. All of those chairs cost that much money. So this is the end to actually give it a go. And if someone wants to borrow a piece of equipment, then they just reach out and I just put my feelers out. And it's also a good time to network, find coaches, find friends, talk to other parents in similar sort of situations. If not, you know what? Like at the end of the day, these kids, they get to be kids. You see them at this camp and they're wheeling around. They don't care if Charlie's blind or Millie's deaf or so-and-so's in a walker or someone-so's. There's no boundaries, no limits, no rules. Well, actually, there is rules because I'm Sergeant. That's my nickname. But yeah, within reason, like they just get to be kids and they just look past it.
I love it. What a good, just community for them.
And as soon as I kind of initiate my conversation with everybody, like we do like a bit of a briefing at the beginning, and I always tell everybody, I say, guys, look, I'm going to treat you all this weekend as if you're my own kid. The world is not accessible, so we need to change our minds and try and adapt ourselves to it. And yeah, they just look at me like, what? Like, you expect me to do obstacle course racing? I'm in a power chair. I'm like, yeah, I do.
I think that's something that I've realized too, is that before knowing you, before having sort of personal relationships with other children and adults who have disabilities, I would put limitations on what I think they can do. And the way you've said that, I feel like that would rub off, surely. Like they would be then start putting limitations on themselves based on what their parents may think they're capable of, or, the world may think they're capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that there's somebody like you and this association there that's able to allow them to just see they don't have those limits.
Yep, that's exactly it. And I will make everybody give it a go. They've got to give it a go. I don't care how they do it. If they have to jump out of their chairs and hand walk and crawl, no one's going to judge you as long as you get to the end. I don't care how you do it, as long as you do it and give it a good crack. If you literally physically can't do it, that's what we've got volunteers. I tell the parents to back off, and the volleys come in and they've got one arm around each, one arm around each shoulder, and they're going to get you to the finishing line. So it's all teamwork, and we don't leave anyone behind.
That's incredible.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So how do you fund that?
How do we fund that? Well, the community. I put out sponsorship proposals to local businesses, and they come back with funds, and that's how we end up funding the camp. Also through grants that Variety apply for. and also fundraising, community fundraising. So I fundraise, a few of the children fundraise, and it all goes towards camp.
Nice. How often, like a year, do you put these on?
So we go once a year in the April holidays for the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And finally got our first camp up in Townsville in July this year.
Nice.
So April and July at this stage. Hopefully in the future we'll be heading out west as well.
That's awesome.
Hard work, but awesome. Yeah.
You can imagine.
That's what I did notice when I was talking to you. You were like, yeah, I'm doing this and then I'm going to go do that. And it's like just juggling 1,000 balls to try and.
That's exactly. Juggling balls. That's perfect. And like, I'm also, not only am I trying to create amazing opportunities for other children, I've also got my own child to juggle as well, to make sure he doesn't drop, because he's excelling in all his sports as well. So I need to try and keep that happy balance, if that makes sense, as well as work.
Yeah. So I've seen Josh around the school. He zooms all around. Actually, I was telling Abby the other day, I was up in one of the car parks and I saw him come around the corner and down the hill to head up towards to the tennis courts, which are up, and he was absolutely just like gunning it so fast. I was like, oh, but he was like completely in control, zooming down the hill, like so confident. So tell us a little bit about more about Josh. So he is a tennis player, is that right?
Josh is a jack of all trades. He started, starting from the beginning, when he was about 3, he started showing all this crazy strength. Like what made me really explore the sport avenue was I turned around one day to see my 3-year-old disabled child doing a handstand drinking a Boost juice. We need to work on this, and I'm going to get you some professional training, because I need you to look after your little body. And as I said, being a Kiwi, we didn't get funding for physio or any of that. So I was his physio for ever, to put it nicely. So he started off doing a sport called WCMX, which is the one that that increased his chair skills. So WCMX is wheelchair motocross, and it's advanced chair skills. So I don't know if you've watched America's Got Talent or Nitro Circus, and there's wheels and he flies down the ramps in his green wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay. So Josh was going over to America to go participate in the beginners division with all the American kids. And that's where he got his confidence in his chair. So, by the time he was 4, he took off the rear wheels, the anti-tips. By the time he was 5, he was charging it off curbs and going back up curbs. So he realized that he's actually got something kind of special there. So he decided to try tennis at school, and he liked it, but he wasn't quite sure, being a kid. And then he just kept working out, personal training, doing things like that. I think it was when he was about 6 or 7, he decided to give wheelchair racing a go. And that's when we actually met Kurt Fernley in person. And what did he do? He ended up doing the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. He only did like 2Ks or something because he was so little. And he gets into automatic racing position with his elbows high and he's leaning forward and he's just charging. So, wheelchair racing is huge. That's one thing that he loves. What else does he do? Basketball and swimming.
And you're actually trying to get sort of kids with various disabilities able to compete, because so many of them are like Josh in like regular school.
Yeah.
But there isn't really too much of a capacity for schools to be able to have them compete. So you're actually working on that as well, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we're hoping to, through school at the moment, like getting more, creating more inclusive sort of pathways through TAS sport. And I know in private, public school, there are pathways that you can still compete, like at all schools and things like that. I'm very new to the whole private school side of things, but I do know that they're trying to become more inclusive.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, state swimming and things like that, at the beginning of the year, Josh has represented his school in the last 6 years. And And once he gets himself a new race chair, he'll be hoping to represent the school in athletics again. But yeah, no, private school's a lot different, and it's a lot more, it's a few more hurdles, I think, but I think we'll get there. There's a few kids that are really keen in other schools that want to participate. So I'm thinking if we all band together, all these schools work together, you'll be able to have your own multi-class division, which would be phenomenal.
Well, I feel like if anyone it will be able to get that sorted, it's going to be you.
Vocal, right?
You have to be. That's so good. Do you mind? Can I ask? I mean, what are they really? I know there's some like misconceptions or presumptions that people would make for kids with disabilities. Like, what are some of the obstacles that you as a mom have to overcome?
That people can't do things. That's huge, is that people assume that you can't do something. But then you've got the whole flip side of that, is where they then look past the disability and assume you can do things. I'll try and give you an example where someone's trying to organize a camp, for example, and then they want to think that the child is more able than what they physically are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's not. Sometimes you've just got to say, hey, look, they do have a disability, but we're not going to sugarcoat and bubble wrap them. However, we need to know what's your physical, like medical sort of makeup, what's the boundaries, if that makes any sense. I'm sorry if that does. Another obstacle is accessibility is huge. It's huge. It's getting better, but accessibility all around is a nightmare. When you go and you're going to those sort of heritage shops where there's steps and there's hills and if you were an adult with a wheelchair user, I wouldn't even know how you'd comprehend life, to be honest with you. Like you would have it's hard. Accessibility is super hard, but I guess that's what power assists and support workers are there for.
Yeah, and I think that's I think what if I'm correct in saying, when able-bodied people are kind of looking at various situations, they just don't consider some of the different things, like stairs, like the height of countertops, or
when they're creating these things, they're not using people with a disability to help build or create, if that makes sense. They don't have them.
So making a presumption about what you think you can do, as opposed to actually getting somebody who has a disability in to help you through that process to make those decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I am quite worried about, well, it's not worried about, I'm kind of a little bit nervous, is employment. So most children, they start getting their first jobs 15, 16 type, and they're going to McDonald's and they're going to Subway and they're going to work at Coles, and it's just so much more challenging once your child with a disability is keen to go tackle the workforce. I do know my son is keen, and he started acting because of it, because he can get gigs and he can get money, but he does get himself a job at 7-Eleven. So he's going to hit that hurdle once he gets to it, and there's still such a massive stigma towards employment and disability, what you can and what you can't do, and what you physically can and what you physically can't do. So that's another hurdle I guess we'll come to when we get closer to the time.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Because what made me think of it is I used to run a restaurant in the Gold Coast, and we had an issue with our toilets. They were not accessible, and then they redid part of the restaurant, and the toilets were part of it, and they were meant to be accessible. This is like what the builders told them and stuff. And anyways, I don't work there anymore, but I had gone in to visit it, and I couldn't eat, like, totally different, but I couldn't even get like my child and I in our like bag through. I was like, how are these accessible? Like, they didn't have a change table, for example, which is what I needed for my child. And I was like, I was like, this is not accessible. And anyways, I don't.
You've got to turn if you'd have to consider a wheelchair, like you'd have to be able to turn it around, or if you're going to back it up, you have to be able to get out of it right? Like you don't.
Yeah, like it.
Yeah, I can't understand. I think there has to be somebody in that decision-making process.
Yeah, that's it.
That actually understands, because there are so many cool, this is another thing that I learned from my friend who's an occupational therapist. There are so many cool things to help make the world more accessible to people with disabilities, like grabby things and rolly things and stuff to get in and out of stuff and things to help you speak, and just so many cool things, like just that if they were available, if they were accessible, would just completely change the lives of so many people.
100%. So accessibility is huge.
Yeah.
Employment, workspaces, once again, falls down to accessibility. And then also like the mindset of the owners or the people that are in charge. That's a whole nother story. And then that kind of leads you on to dating. So, yeah.
Right.
So
yes, because we're in high school. Our children are, Josh is 12 or 13 now?
13 now.
13 now. So we're in high school. So all of that stuff is kind of ahead.
So because I've already kind of pre-thought this one out, and I actually created a dating app.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I did. A dating app for people living with and without disabilities, because I want to create I want to get rid of that social stigma towards dating someone with a disability. And I really want to encourage interabled relationships.
I love that.
You're so awesome.
How cool is she? For real. I'm like,
so good.
I can't even deal.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of putting together a singles party in February, and everyone's invited. I don't care if you've got a disability or not. If you're looking for love or looking for a mate, then
that has got yourself sorted just there. Well, I will be more than happy to put the word out for you when that gets out there.
Yeah, awesome.
That's I love that. So what is next for Variety Kids? What's next for you outside of that and the dating app? And how can people get involved? Both from if they've got kids that they want to get involved, if they're a sports person out there that has heard about this, or if they're a business owner who may want to be able to help you guys out. How can they get involved?
If you Google Variety Kids Sports Camp, Variety, the Children's Charity Queensland, it will come up with my little link, and you just register your interest. So once registrations are open, then we can get in touch with you. Or if you want to volunteer, same deal, just click that link. I'm always open to more volunteers. So if anyone's keen to spend a day or 3 with us, accommodation and meals paid for, please put your hand up for a weekend that you'll never forget. If you're keen to join the Townsville camp, which will be the 30th till the 2nd of July, so 30th of June to the 2nd of July, that will be held at the Cowboys House up there. Same deal, register your interest, whether you want to be a volley or a participant. Or if you've got any questions, I have got an email address, vksc@varietyqld.org.au. That will directly, we can just talk, whether you want to do, whether you want to coach a sport, whether you've got some questions about your child coming along, if you want to volunteer but you don't know what to expect, please, or if any questions, just hit me up. If you're a business and you want to jump on board and support this amazing camp, please, once again, shoot me an email or send me through a proposal. We would love to have you on board. This camp has been running since 2019. 75 children on the Gold Coast, 30 in Townsville, and we just want to grow and create so many more little athletes. And whether they become athletes or not, they're going to meet some pretty fantastic people. Actually, can I give you a little story?
Please.
We had this little boy called Jackson, and he's a little race runner. And a group of my volunteers took a massive shine to him at left field, just kind of came in and just fell in love with this kid. And I just noticed on the Variety Queensland page that they actually donated him an AFL wheelchair.
Wow.
All of that because of my camp. So I'm exposing amazing business owners and volunteers to these children, and they want to help. Everyone's got the same sort of heart, and they just want to help.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have to have any kind of like background to be a volunteer, or anyone can be a volunteer as long as you've got like a blue card or something?
That's exactly. As long as you've got a blue card, you can volunteer.
I'm gonna have to get a blue card.
Please get a blue card and join in.
Sounds awesome. Like, why would you
Yeah.
not?
It's seriously so much fun. We've got things like kayaking on the agenda, taekwondo, you name it. I try and change it up a little bit. This year we had Variety Kids Got Talent, and you know what, if people for camp are going to listen, spoiler alert, I'm going to spice things up, and we haven't got Variety Kids Got Talent anymore. We've got Shake, Rattle and Roll, which is going to be a music festival.
Cool.
So I want
Fun.
I just try and spice it up. I haven't told the team yet. I haven't told the kids yet. It's all a bit hush. Put some silly little puns on my Facebook page, but apart from that, yeah, it's going to be Shake, Rattle and Roll, and I want to create like a little bit of a festival vibe. So that's what's coming up for Variety Kids Sports Camp. Me, what's happening? Oh my gosh, what's not happening for me? Well, I'm going to keep maintaining Joshua's schedule, so he trains twice a day, 5 times a week. And I also actually work for an amazing company called Every Human. So it's an adaptive online marketplace for people with a disability. So I don't know if you've heard of Billy Footwear. They got the zips around the top, so it's an AFO friendly shoe. So they've got lots of AFO friendly products. They've got accessible and universal clothing. So whether it's magnetic bras, magnetic undies, anxiety stuff. So I work as part of the customer relations team for them. That's keeping me busy. And I'm also the vice president of a rural tennis club, of course, out in Kurungara. So we're trying to get our club on the map. And yeah, we want to make it the most accessible rural tennis club out there. So that's me in a nutshell, what I'm trying to do and focus on.
So much. I'm so grateful for you coming on today. I knew you were cool and awesome, but I didn't realize like all the extra bits. You're absolutely inspiring. I love everything you're doing. I can see Jess's face. Like we're keen to help out.
Yeah. This is so cool.
Which would be incredible. If you are out there and you would love to help, if you'd love to get involved, please get in touch with Abbi. We will make sure that we have all the links, all the email addresses in our show notes, so that you're able to like easily access that. If you have any questions and you can't reach her or something doesn't make sense, feel free at any time to reach out to us, either on our Facebook page, The Transformation Project, or on our website, which is just www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Abbi, thank you for joining us today. Everybody who's out there, thanks so much for being with us again on The Transformation Project. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're having an absolutely incredible day. Thank you for listening in to this episode of The Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast. We're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.